As the United States and the European Union continue to have more and more economic difficulties, particularly Europe, which is going through a terrible crisis right now, one country in the world is actually doing quite well and has actually done better than it projected. Venezuela has announced its economy grew by 6.5% thus far in 2012. The Planning and Finance Minister Jorge Gordani said that the GDP was expected to be 5%, but has actually gone farther to 6.5%. This is also what he had to say. Social policies, including those implemented in a determined manner by President Chavez today, allows us to have a solid base of growth that translates into human happiness. Here is a list of the sectors that grew during that time. Construction sector, 29.6%. Financial institutions, 27.7%. Electricity and water sector, 6.7%. Communications, 7%. Products and services, 4.6%. Oil-related activities, 2.2%. This clearly demonstrates a tremendous growth within the Venezuelan economy, while the rest of the world, particularly North America and Europe, are going through a terrible time of crisis. Now, the central bank president, Nelson Mendez of the Venezuelan central bank, says, also noted this as well, that the U.S. and the EU are down, while Venezuela itself is up. Well, inflation fell 5 months in a row in April, which was 0.8%. Tourism also increased during this time. More people have gone ahead and decided to visit Venezuela, whether they wanted to go to a Latin American country, or they wanted the weather, or they wanted to see the Bolivarian Revolution for themselves. So tourism is up 49.5%. This was between January and April of 2012. There were 312,725 international tourists. Now, all this has taken place despite the fact that there have been exaggerated accounts of violence in Venezuela, particularly Caracas, one that has traditionally been one of the most violent cities in Latin America. These have been massively overblown by the Western media. The actual statistics speak for themselves. These social commentaries are always intended to exaggerate things like this. It's always tried to portray that communist societies are violent and stuff like that. Even though Venezuela is not communist, the equating to it has always been made. Now, the tourism minister, Andrew Fleming, acknowledged this and did speak about it. The media says that Venezuela is unsafe, unstable, and dangerous. That the revolution, Commander President Chavez, his government, and we revolutionaries eat people. The revolution has managed to break and knock down this media mold, which has dealt with the image of Venezuela in a disrespectful and even irresponsible way. He did also go on to mention that Mexico has had a surge in crime. And that has not hurt their tourism at all. After all, these stories of Mexican drug cartels are now quite legendary, with recently 49 headless bodies being found in a mass grave. And even they too, with all this violence, has had a massive increase in tourism. So this is a trend that is going across Latin America, not something generally specific to Venezuela, although they themselves have had a massive boost, which is probably the largest in the region. Now, despite all the propaganda put out by the United States, the EU, and the Western corporate media that Hugo Chavez is a terrible, evil human being, Venezuela is actually doing very well and doing better than it had actually projected, while North America and the European Union are going through a time of crisis. I think this fact alone speaks very well to the Bolivarian Revolution.